Yo, what's up, everyone? Something that's been plaguing the U.S. and I really think throughout the world, and it's the divide between, the wealthy and the working class, especially the working poor. Sucks ass, but the spread is getting bigger. Yep. There's a bigger disparity than ever.
True. Yeah,
and it's very convenient when people who are at the top, say shit that pretty much is like kind of trying to allude to that we live in a meritocracy, and you just gotta pull those bootstraps up more than you already are. So there's a video that came out a couple years old. It was this interview with Mr. Wonderful, sounding very wonderful, wonderful jackass right now. Let's see what happens.
Wealth, this is according to Oxfam, of the world's 85 richest people is equal to the 3.5 billion poorest people.
It's fantastic. And this is a great thing because
I'm one of the 85.
Everybody gets the motivation to look up to the 1% and say, I want to become one of those people. I'm going to fight hard to get up to the top. This is fantastic news, and of course I applaud it.
Yeah, I think it's just really dirty because, again, he's kind of just saying that, like, hey, we're the motivation to the people who aren't us, and we're going to motivate you to work as hard as we do because you clearly aren't. And I think that's just bullshit. It's just kind of trying to put the blame away from the system in which these people have been thriving.
Not thriving, exploiting.
Yeah.
I think it's more like when you're thriving in something, it's different than when you're exploiting it. And that's like what he's not saying is that, like, if you really want to be in the 1%, like, you pretty much have to do like dirty ass shit.
Yeah. And
like, I'm not saying they all do dirty ass shit. I'm just saying, like, he does. He's a fucking slime ball.
Yeah. I mean, as much as I'm sure people enjoy him on Shark Tank. I mean, hey, he's a funny dude on Shark Tank.
No, he's a good character. And I'm sure he works really hard, but that's not the point.
But the point is that, like, that's the thing that I think he looks good in that because he's like a caricature of like a human being. But when you look at the human behind that caricature, like, goddamn, you're just as ugly as your caricature. Pretty much.
I would say that he and a lot of other wealthy people don't pay their fair share of taxes.
I agree because there's like too many loopholes and like basically like when it's like one of the only things I agreed with Trump when he said that like the system's rigged and he's like, I use this system so I know it's rigged.
Yeah, well, yeah, so funny, right? Because he back in that time, like, when he was talking about like the tax cuts and stuff, right?
And he uses all that shit.
Yeah, but and yet, then his supporters were like, well, that's smart. Yeah, he's abusing the system that's biting me in the ass.
Yeah, that's
like it's just like
that's a different thing.
It is, but I mean, just so funny that someone that has that perception of being in the financial elite sort of saying like, hey, it's kind of a broken system, look at me. But, not everyone is able to like do what he did, write the amount of losses that he did in a way where, he wasn't, he wasn't paying anything. But yet here he was using all this, expending all this capital and surely gaining, but being able to offset those gains with what he claimed to be spending.
The part that I will agree with him, though, Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Is that you do have to put in extra work more than your work that you have to do.
Of course.
And like, that's like, I think that gets lost on a lot of people.
But this is the other thing I say is that, are you saying that everyone who's not where Mr. Wonderful is, they're not doing that?
No, I'm not saying everyone's not doing that, but most aren't.
Yeah. Well, anyways,
and I'm not saying that he's doing that.
Yeah.
Because there's no way to know that he's actually doing that himself. He could just be putting in 9 to 5 every day and making that kind of money.
That's a fair point because a lot of people that are that wealthy aren't like totally self-made. They did inherit from their family.
Oh yeah, like Trump, like
or have a network, right?
Like, I mean, for instance, Trump, like, I don't mean to like keep bashing him, but like
he's a great example, recent example that everyone knows
about. He said,
I
had a small loan of $1 million. Like, not everybody.
I got a small $2 million loan from his dad. Like all
that's
right, dude.
Like, it's like I wish I could ask my dad for a small $2 million loan.
I wish I could ask for anything and call it small. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But so I really like this interview because this lady, and I'm feeling bad for not knowing her name, but she just kills it, man. She just really sort of like, you see the astonishment, I guess, or how just shocked she is to hear him talk like this. And it seems like he's really talking like very truthfully, honestly, right? So let's hear it.
can be wrong with this?
Really?
Yes, really.
Really?
Somebody living on
I celebrate capitalism.
$1 a day in Africa is getting up in the morning and saying, "I'm going to be Bill Gates."
That's the motivation everybody
thing
needs.
between me and
I'm
that
not
guy
against
is
charity.
motivation. I just need to pull up my socks.
I am not.
Wait, I don't have socks.
Look, don't tell me.
I love that. It just sounds really out of touch with working class people.
Yeah, and it's kind of that thing where, like, right, we all have our own experiences, and so I think that it's very much a human condition to say, hey, these are my own experiences, and so this is my perception of the world. And so in this case, he's kind of saying, look, I did it. Why can't you? I worked hard. I struggled. So you're not struggling enough, because I definitely did. And look, it paid off.
The thing is, you don't know, like, his upbringing. We don't know his upbringing. Like, most likely people of status or of wealth, at least one of their parents was of status or of wealth.
Someone in their family.
Yeah, someone in their family, right?
A crazy statistic I've heard throughout the years now at this point is that the greatest indicator of one's wealth is what their parents made. And to me, it just really highlights that reality that, yes, the family you're born into, no one chooses it, and yet that is the greatest indicator of what your future wealth will be, and just who you know, right? Who you know's oftentimes trumps what you can do and how well you do it. Ultimately,
yeah, some of the greatest transfers of wealth are generational wealth. Yeah, especially in the United States.
Recently there was a whole thing with nepo babies, right? It was like I saw it on a lot of different discussions, different podcast streams, articles. Nepo babies, specifically within Hollywood. Right? Oh. How many parents, not even just of actors or directors, but of like kids of someone who was within like the staging or editing, or script writing, whatever it may be
in the industry
that just gave those people just unique opportunities that others without those connections, those genetic connections
wouldn't have.
Now, it's not to say that those nepo babies, didn't work hard.
I think the field of art is a big one. Like as an artist, you definitely get those opportunities when you have those connections as family members or working with people.
And it's not to say that they didn't work hard, but what it is to say is that perhaps they had more opportunity to showcase what they got, that others who are working just as hard and equally as talented aren't afforded. So it very much is a who you know kind of thing. And so
exactly,
Mr. Wonderful just kind of talking like it's like, hey, it's a meritocracy. It just, again, it takes away the culpability from the system, and for all its imperfections, not saying it's completely horrible, but I mean, to say it's beautiful and wonderful. I love capitalism. I mean, a lot of nasty shit's happening in capitalism. People complain about, if the U.S. socialized medicine, this and that. It would be horrible. Well, the thing is, it's already horrible for many people,
right?
Who have inadequate health care, or that they're so their only access to healthcare is tied to work, and so you hear countless stories. I have a family member who, when they had a cancer diagnosis, the part of the discussion was, how am I going to continue working and have my job while still taking off the time that I really need to go through the, the chemo and the different, taking care of my body to recover and stuff. It was like a balancing act of like, whoa, I got to realize that once I go through chemo, I'm going to be hurting for a long time, yet I still got to work like, so often within this 6-month time frame. I forget the specifics, but that was a reality of the discussions. And it wasn't just like, well, here's the treatment, and let's focus on you recovering, right? And
right,
it's sad. It's sad, man.
I think like many of the people we show speaking on our show, Kevin O'Leary, his analysis lacks nuance.
Yeah, it lacks nuance. And so, this was again an interview from a few years back. I want to go to one that is, I don't know how recent, 5 years ago, I suppose. Or at least it was posted 5 years ago.
You keep score.
But so
again,
so this is him kind of talking about the sacrifices successful people must make.
Tell people, if you're going to take this road, there's a huge sacrifice that people don't think about. Most people think, I'm going to start a company. 2 months later, it's going to be worth $1 billion, and I'm going to make a fortune. That is
that makes sense, right? We always.
I mean, he's right. Like
things are going to be much harder than they look. There's a lot of growing pains, but isn't that with everything?
Yeah.
I mean, no matter the line of work, and I kind of just wanted to say that, let's watch some more, but
okay.
I think that, I guess it's very rarely do you see someone say, hey, I'm going to do this thing and it's going to be exactly as I envision it, right? Very much.
No, I don't think that's the point he was making.
No. I know. I guess I was just trying to say that as a way to say that this idea applies beyond, even those people that we deem successful.
Oh yeah.
I mean, obviously the people who fall short, clearly their expectation was
wrong.
Was wrong. Yeah, of course. So I mean, a little silly to say, but anyways, let's keep watching it.
Fail. They have to do it 3 times. They spend a decade before they get their hit, or they work at one company for 15 years. And they finally get an exit. It's more like that, and the personal sacrifice is huge. There is no soccer game on Saturday. There's no Sunday dinner with the family. You're working.
Yeah. So in what industry where you really want to sort of like be the best and excel, is that not a thing? It's not, I think, unique to entrepreneurship and to sell, sole proprietors, people running their own business. And yet, I don't know. I just get the vibe that that's sort of his framework. Of course, it's perhaps the thing that he knows best. So, okay, I guess I think I got to be kind in that way.
I think I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and think that he's trying to say that you are like the leader, the boss. Like there is no other like teammate or coworker that's going to do more than you. I think that's what he might be trying to say.
I agree with that. I think it's like where I think where I agree is that, most people do expect, like I should be afforded these things because I'm working hard and doing this. I should be able to have a soccer game on Saturday and I should be able to have Sunday dinner and this and that and stuff like that. But like if you're grinding in something to where you're saying too, it's the same. You have to make sacrifices in whatever
no matter what. And now I'm not and also I want to say that I'm not trying to say that no one should make sacrifices. Everyone should, live a very everyone should be comfortable all day, every day, all day. But I think that why is it so widely accepted that in order to get ahead, in order to be the best, you have to like have unsustainable sort of like work hours and
unsustainable. I mean, because
work ethic. Yeah.
It's not because of how it should be or shouldn't be. I think it's because it's how certain people take it. And if certain people are going to do that and put in the time, then you have to be willing to do it too. Otherwise, you can't complain for not.
Something we've talked about before too is burnout.
Yeah.
People just get burned out.
Exactly.
And the other thing I want to add to that is that, when we sort of normalize the reality of, hey, you got to really like grind to the point of, you're teetering on burnout, it just makes it more and more okay. And then, what are the repercussions of that? And how impactful are those repercussions on the workforce, right? When people feel like, if it's like a straw that the straw that broke the camel's back. It's like, if we have so many people that are at that line, is that really, fiscally, conducive to a healthy marketplace and healthy, economic relationships and
it's definitely trade-offs.
Yeah.
No, I think that he's like definitely missing the point in that he thinks, I mean, I don't know, I can't say he thinks, but it seems that he thinks people don't work hard in their job
when they're not successful.
When they're not successful.
Yeah, and
sounds like it.
And then it brings the whole thing of what's successful, right? And so, something I wanted to bring up next, Kramer, if you wouldn't mind changing the thing, is that this page, Joaquin, you got me hip to it, right? The UFW, the
United
Farm Workers, and we see that here in California, seasonal work in terms of food, agricultural labor. Right? I mean, if you want to talk about people who work their ass off,
I personally
look no
think
further.
They should be fast tracked to citizenship because of what they're doing.
That's a great idea that I've never heard anyone, in positions of public office ever talk about. Because it's like, talk about a line of work that is not only very physically laborious, but it's underpaid. And it's at the mercy of our season, right? Our weather, and at the mercy of and at the end of the day, this is the thing, is that I think that also more and more people would be okay doing like that 6-day, 7-day work grind if they felt like they got to have a payoff that truly reflected that level of work, right? And so
these guys are working in real hard conditions.
And at the end of the day, these people that work 6-7 hour days, 6-7 day work days,
most of them don't get the compensation that
they deserve. And exactly. Here's one that I want to do was this awesome video. Well, it's awesome because you just see like that these people are just truly, the salt of the earth, So Yolanda is pruning wine grape plants in Greenfield, California. She's been laboring in North California fields for 21 years to be able to give to her family a better life. So, talk about, working hard and making those sacrifices. Yet, I'm sure many people would say, hey, but Mr. Wonderful is doing something better than she is, and what is it that he's doing better? I mean, better exploiting. He was born into a better, social network, or, it's like, really? I mean, so is Mr. Wonderful really working that much harder than Yolanda? I fucking doubt it. Straight up, I fucking doubt it.
That's why I can't agree. Like, I agree with you. That's why I can't agree with him. Yeah. Is that where you can't say that they don't work hard? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Another example. Look, Lorena's laboring pruning wine grapes again. Wine grape vines. Gets up at 4 a.m. to make lunch for herself, her husband, their school-aged children, plus their 2-year-old daughter's daycare. She drives about an hour to get to work.
A lot of these people are undocumented and making less than minimum wage. Yeah. Working long days.
Yeah, and it's ugly because the conversation that then comes into place is people start saying, well, this is the work that no one wants to do, and sort of trying to paint it in an unglorious,
compensated for in some way.
Yeah, but also let's talk about why don't people want to work in it. So physically laboring and tasking, yes, hell yeah. I mean, to be doing it for as long as these people do, they got to be efficient, taking care of their bodies, or I'm sure more often than I would like to, admit, they're dealing with the physical toll on their body.
Oh, totally.
and with probably insufficient access to medical care.
Exactly,
right?
Yeah.
And I mean, talk about an unsustainable system, yet, people will so easily say, well, it's again, just kind of putting that blame in terms of like, well, whose fault is it for having a hurt body?
Yeah, these
whose fault is it for having to work so hard and still not making enough? I mean, it's not their fault.
Yeah, these people are sacrificing their bodies, and that's basically that's everything, your health, and they're not getting the rewards for that.
Yeah, and the California agricultural food industry, supplies food to so much of our country.
And the world.
And the world. And so
United States is breadbasket.
I know 100% that these people are not getting compensated in an equitable way. And ultimately, that's the true nature of like a socialistic approach towards a workforce. The workforce is, it's not about, hey, the doctor makes as much as the fast food worker, but what it is that based on the services that you provide for an industry, for a company, you get compensated in a meaningful manner based on your role and the impact that your work has in your absence.
Totally, workers do deserve the fruit of their labors.
Yeah, and so you think that if all these seasonal workers were to stop working, that the CEOs of these different these agricultural businesses, do you think they would step in and do it? Hell no. And so sometimes also I think about back to kind of what Mr. Wonderful was saying, is that, hey, you got to make sacrifices. It's tough and this and that. A lot of times people say that, hey, well, the CEOs are risking a lot to to kind of like bear the risks of the business, right? But something that actually I like, Hassan said, that really well-known streamer at this point, he said, but what is the worst case scenario for someone that's at the top, like a CEO? If things go awry, right? What's going to happen?
You can go to federal prison. That's it.
Okay, but that's because of shit that they decided to okay, in my opinion. But okay, let's say they're doing everything by the book and their business goes under. Guess what? All they have to do is
declare bankruptcy.
Well, declare bankruptcy or sell one of their multiple houses, sell one of their multiple yachts, or become a wage earner. Oh, like the rest of us. Oh, how horrible. And that's something that when I heard Hassan saying, like, yeah, I think that that's a really good point. You know, for someone in this position, like Miss Lorena, if they, you know, if the business goes under, they're out of a job.
Yeah,
they're not able to pay for rent. Or they have to decide between rent and food, or electricity and clothes. You know, it's like that is like real life altering. You know, like traumatic life decision making in place. You know, hey, I'm gonna have one house instead of 5, or no yachts instead of 2 yachts. I mean, it sucks, sure. You know, I mean, first world problems are still problems, I guess. But I mean, get over it. God damn.
Yeah, Kevin has a lot to fall back on to be making statements like
that. Exactly. I mean, and also at the end of the day, hey, well, no one's, you know, putting a gun to your head to get in those entrepreneurial risks, right? So, you know, to say, oh, woe is me, it's so risky. Well, again, no one's forcing you. So, I don't know. It's just tricky, man. But, you know, I think that the talk behind like minimum wage, right, and wage earners, there's a lot of misconception. I think of, you know, the discussion regarding raising minimum wage, and a lot of people saying stuff like, well, you know, the people in minimum wage jobs are largely like young people, you know, doing like
unskilled work,
unskilled labor. You know, hey, it's like spending money because they live at home. So here we go. This was a infographic made by it's posted on this website, AFL-CIO. Actually, I don't know this organization, but the group that made the infographic is EPI. It's an Economic Policy Institute, I believe. It is a think tank, left-leaning, identified as a left-leaning think tank. But you know what? From what I've seen of sort of just like, you know, how much revenue they bring in versus how much they spend on you know, on the entity. It's a nonprofit entity. You know, it seems fairly reputable. Fairly. I'm not gonna say the most, but hey, let's start here. So, right, what people think. People earning minimum wage are teenagers. They work part-time. It's an after-school thing, and it's okay because they live with their parents. So ultimately, it's extra spending money. But reality,
it's only a small percentage of people that are actually fitting those characteristics.
Yeah. So look, the average age of minimum wage earners is 36 years old. 89% of them are 20 years or older. 37% of them are 40 years or older. 56% of them are women, 28% have children, 57% of them work full-time, and on average, they earn more than half of their family's total income. So it's to say that the perception is not the reality. And even if these numbers are slightly, you know, inaccurate, because this was made a few years back, you know, within, I want to say 5 years, when I was trying to do research on this infographic, within 5 years, give or take, you know, I think it just highlights a more truthful rendition of the reality.
Yeah.
And you know, what a sad reality. And so if we were to raise the minimum wage, I mean, that there would be a lot of benefits. You know, people say, oh, well, the cost of a burger is going to go up. Well, guess what? The cost of a burger is going up, period. And federal minimum wage has not raised in a long ass time. So, you know, it's kind of like the same thing where like, oh, if we socialize medicine, it's going to be horrible. Well, guess what? There's a lot of challenges with it.
It's not enough.
Yeah.
It's not enough, because here's the thing. If you raise the minimum wage, the business is just going to pass on the expenses to the consumer. So you have to make it a way that there isn't loopholes and things for...
Yes.
Yeah. For... Oh,
no, go on. Sorry,
okay.
Craig.
Yeah, that's all I was gonna say.
Yeah. I agree with that, because we kind of have to like kind of foresee what the challenges will come as a result of doing something like raising the federal minimum wage.
Yeah,
and that's a good point. And I apologize for cutting you off.
Oh no, it's fine.
But
fine.
I just get really heated about.
Yeah,
this.
There are a lot of businesses too that don't have too many employees that can't really afford to pay a whole lot more.
Yeah, that's true. Also,
yeah.
This is something that I think it's important to recognize, though, is that, you know, since the pandemic, right, we've seen the cost of so many different things rise. And for a long time, you know, people were saying supply chain issues, you know, lack of sufficient workers. So we're not able to, you know, our output isn't what it used to be pre-pandemic. This is the thing, is that even after, you know, different not sanctions, but different, what's it called? You know, like when people started going back to work, businesses started opening up and kind of doing things closer to how they were pre-pandemic.
Oh, yes.
We were still experiencing a lot of increase in prices, right? And as an example,
that always happens.
The gas,
it's always going to go up. Like,
yeah.
This is the thing though. So for a while when we were dealing with crazy gas stuff, and the whole world it wasn't just a U.S. thing. For a while, people were saying, "Well, the Ukrainian, the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the war is a big source of these increased prices, and so on and so forth."
Because a lot of our resources come from Russia.
Well, and yes, and I also want to say no in the sense that it doesn't have to be like that.
Right.
You know, I believe that under Obama we were using a lot of more domestic oil usage than in prior years. And the other thing I want to say is that we don't, you know, Russia is one, but not the only source of our, you know, of our crude oil, you know, receiving of our imports, right? And this is the thing though, is that there was, I'm blanking on what the
we buy their vodka.
What the purpose of this video saw, but it was of interaction within like a congressional hearing. And a congressman was asking someone within the industry, you know, say, hey, can you help me sort of make sense of this graph? And it was looking at the sources. They were trying to pinpoint the source of the increase in costs for everything within recent years. And pretty much what the expert had to say is that it's not related to supply chain issues or workforce issues. It's literally just about corporations wanting to continue to maximize their profit.
Yeah.
And you know, I think back about how right when COVID first happened, the airline industry, oh, we need a bailout, it's gonna hurt us, right? The cruise industry, oh, we need a bail. And guess what? They never saw decreases in their profits throughout. I don't think any quarter. I mean, I might be overstating it. Maybe it may have been one quarter, or maybe they didn't break the previous record. But I
don't know. I heard
like
quarter four crushed, like, in a bunch of ways, so I don't know if it was like,
was that like a crush or like a crush? I don't know.
No, good crush.
A good crush. Okay, yeah. So yeah, crush. Yeah, that's a good crush. Yeah, the crush. I don't know. I've never heard someone say crush like that in a bad way, but in a sad way. I just wanted to make sure. But yeah, so my point is that, you know, yet these people were crying, right? And so many different businesses that weren't really hurting were big recipients of millions of dollars. You know, even tens of millions of PPP funds, right?
Oh yeah.
Which was really slated for those companies that were going to use those funds to help people maintain their paychecks while we couldn't work.
Yeah.
And so, you know, talking about Crane, right? Like, how are we going to implement policy to help, like, make sure that if the federal minimum wage was increased, that we don't see an unnecessary increase in cost? Yeah, there would need to be serious legislative sort of like foresight and countermeasures to counteract that. And the thing is that, you know, unfortunately we have a really divided Congress. And while I have my criticisms of all sides of the political spectrum here in the US, I do say that there's one side that for me is worse than the other.
Yeah.
And as an example, when the Democrats had the majority in the House, they wanted to push for a bill that just required corporations to pretty much like announce like they had to like very clearly acknowledge their campaign contributions, the amount and to whom. And Republicans denied that. So for me, it's like, you know, although I have my gripes about both sides, you know, I see one side being way more evil than the other.
Yeah,
so
it's the dark side.
The dark side, man. And, you know, but hey, it's a lot easier to just complain that no one wants to work, right? And so it reminds me of this thread that I saw on Twitter some time ago of how, no one wants to work anymore. So, right, 2022, right? According to a new survey, no one wants to work. A lack of response to job applications is my guess. I don't know. 2014. What has happened to the work ethic in America? No one wants to work anymore. All right, but now, so you look, the 06ers.
Never mind.
The 06ers. I can't believe the bad luck I had in trying to find someone to do some needed home improvements. It almost seems like no one wants to work anymore.
Well,
no one wants
wait. Why don't you do your home
Exactly. Why don't you
improvements
do your own goddamn work if you're so astounded, like amazed at the
that
lack
no
of
one
work?
wants to work?
Well, guess what? You part of that crew too, man. What the hell? Was this in the late 1900s? I've heard people starting to refer to the 1990s which is factually correct, but kind of
makes us feel old.
Yeah, kind of hurts a little bit, right? Kind of hurts a little. No one wants to work anymore, Cecil said. They all want to work in front of a computer and make lots of money. Oh, how horrible, man! Right? What? Yeah, they just sound bitter as hell. 81. Farming is my hobby now, but these rocks, I hired 2 boys to clear them, and they were just fooling around. Well, I mean, hey, you were fooling around trying to hire kids to do shit, man. Like, what the hell? 79. Nobody wants to work. Disgusted businessman. Probably Mr. Wonderful. Last Sunday, the first programs dealt with how it feels to be poor, and the upcoming Sunday segment is called Nobody Wants to Work Anymore. Wow. Yeah. So again, kind of we're seeing a thread here, right? That everyone just wants to bitch about the people that are coming after them, because I guess it makes them feel better about their own work ethic, right? So, right, he wanted to lower taxes, but the trouble is everyone is on relief or a pension. No one wants to work anymore. Yeah, and guess what? Nowadays, hardly anyone's on a pension. Younger people, at least, right? So again,
no pension.
Who's gets on pension early is Europe. Europeans get to retire a lot earlier than Americans.
Yeah, and certain European countries that do have socialized, government funded healthcare, a lot more paid time off, right? I mean, I've heard of some countries. I feel bad for not remembering which, but where maternity leave is 3 years, dude. I'm like, what? That is awesome, dude. And just imagine the impact on our youth, right? People talk about, people don't value the family unit anymore. And well, guess what? It's hard to value family unit when you taking more than, a couple months off means that you're not going to be able to live in your place anymore. So, if we didn't have to worry about that stuff, okay, sure. Yeah. Then we could, have the emphasis on the familial unit that I'm sure many conservative people like bitching about all the time. So again, 1916, no one wants to work, right? 1908, scarce, high, I don't know. Work is scarce and they're high as a kite complaining about it is my guess.
Just to touch on the family unit thing, people bitching about it, I would say laws, like the war on drugs have really fucked up the family unit for a lot of people of color and with mass incarceration.
Big time, man. A big talking point. People love saying it's a little tangential, but so again, kind of taking the blame away from where I think is the blame needs to be sort of more geared towards. Mm-hmm. They say after the Civil Rights Act passed, that we saw the single black family unit, dissipate and black men, left their families in waves and this realization that they could rely on government assistance sort of dissipated the family. And I think that's such horseshit, man.
Yeah.
And
gaslighting.
And yeah, super, like a real revisionist way of viewing history. Because yeah, exactly. You see things of the war on drugs, or even the reality that just because the civil, black people got civil rights finally in '64, didn't mean that police forces or hospitals or all these other different industries that were very comfortably only hiring their own and saying, hey, well, you don't have rights. I don't gotta, this and that, right? All the economic advantages that were afforded to people that had civil rights versus those that didn't, right? I mean, they still perpetuated and existed.
Right. The playing field didn't just become equal all of a sudden.
Exactly. And it's not like and everyone that was bitching at seeing the schools being integrated, they didn't just stop hating.
Right.
They kept on, and there's some of them are enough of them are still alive now.
Yes.
So acting like shit again. It's a little tangential, but I think it just shit's annoying. Shit's annoying.
It's all stuff to take into consideration.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it just kind of puts blame away from where I think it is deserved, which is the systems in place,
Yeah.
The systems that perpetuate, income inequality and the exploitation of the working class and wage earners, right? But again, it's just so easy to just say, well, it's because you're lazy. Look at how hard I worked. And people who maybe want it to feel like, hey, instead, because how crappy do you think it would feel about it? Look, I'm doing as much as I can and I'm still struggling. that's a hard thing to acknowledge and say. But so even for working class people, there's something comforting that comes from saying, hey, it's because I haven't worked hard enough. I just need to work harder, and then that's the X factor that my line of work is missing.
Makes it seem like you have more power, like something's in your control.
Yeah.
When it's not necessarily. Yeah. It could be, but not always.
Yeah. So, with that being said, Mr. Wonderful, you're a jackass. Congrats for you, but I think you're doing a disservice to humanity by having these pseudo, pep, inspirational talking points, to try to convince people that they're the reason why they're not as successful as you are. And to say that everything you've earned is through your efforts and your efforts alone, without acknowledging. I mean, how often do the wealthy elite ever say, hey, look at all these connections I had. Hey, look at all these advantages I had. Not enough.
Rare.
So, I think that if we could be honest about that, maybe tax, have a tax the rich a little bit more.
Oh yeah.
Hey, think about when was the working class most robust? It was in World War II, when we had like a 90-something% wealth tax. I forget what the cap was, but right after a certain amount, people making above that amount, were that income was taxed at 90-something%.
We don't expect it to go anything near that, but if we can get back to like pre-Reagan, I think our country will be all right.
Yeah, Reagan was, started a lot of this inequity for sure.
Yeah.
So, anyways, friends, I think it's something to really...
Ronald Reagan?
Yeah.
The actor?
Fuck that dude, man. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm sure that had nothing to do with why he was elected president, totally. I mean...
Celebrity worship.
Yeah, celebrity worship, right? But so, I think, my friends, it's important to acknowledge that, that you do work hard. And when you don't, give yourself space to recover, to breathe and to live. And if you want to reflect on, hey, how can I be more efficient? Sure, but... let's make sure to take care of ourselves. We're in this for the long haul, and the systems that are currently in place, they also have a lot of impact on a lot of things that we try to do and make happen in our lives. So I'm not saying, hey, everything is not our faults, but not everything is too. I know it's a weird thing, right? Anyways, friends, so stay sharp, stay balanced, because we got to keep on fighting till tomorrow.
Yep, fight the good fight. Pay it forward.
Thank you.
Yeah.